The tide of battle had turned completely. What had begun as an alien invasion of Earth had become a human counterattack that pushed the invaders back through the solar system. For the first time in galactic history, a council cleansing operation was not just failing, it was being reversed. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as human forces hunted the retreating alien fleet through the asteroid belt. Around him, his officers coordinated the largest military operation humanity had ever attempted. "Prometheus Fleet, this is Morrison," he broadcast to the entire human armada. "The enemy is retreating toward the edge of the system. Do not let them escape to threaten other worlds. Every alien ship that leaves this system is a potential threat to human colonies." Captain Ben Clark led his task force in pursuit of 3 alien battleships that were trying to reach the hyperspace jump point near Pluto. His ships were a mixture of human destroyers and captured alien vessels, all retrofitted with the hybrid technology that Dr. Nancy Thompson's teams had developed. "Target the enemy engines," Ben ordered his weapons officers. "We want those ships disabled, not destroyed. Intelligence teams need them intact for study." The quantum torpedoes that Ben's ships fired had been improved since the early battles. Human engineers had figured out how to make them phase through shields and armor more selectively, allowing precise strikes on specific ship systems. The alien battleships found themselves unable to maneuver as their engine systems were systematically destroyed. Without propulsion, they became sitting targets for the human boarding parties that Colonel Mike Torres had trained for ship-to-ship combat. War Commander Gulfek watched from his command ship as his fleet disintegrated around him. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being captured by humans using tactics that no military academy in the galaxy had ever taught. How are they coordinating so effectively? He demanded of his tactical officers. Their communications are encrypted, with methods we cannot break. Their ships move in patterns our computers cannot predict. The truth was that human coordination came from something the aliens had never encountered: individual initiative combined with group loyalty. Each human ship captain could make independent decisions while still working toward the common goal of defending their species. Dr. Amy Watson had discovered this principle while studying alien command structures. "They rely on central control systems," she explained to Admiral Morrison during a strategy briefing. "Every alien ship waits for orders from headquarters before taking action. But human commanders think for themselves and adapt to changing situations." This flexibility gave human forces an enormous advantage. When alien battle plans failed, their commanders had to wait for new orders from their superiors. But when human tactics needed adjustment, every ship captain could modify their approach immediately. The captured alien ships became the most valuable prizes of the war. Human engineering teams swarmed over every vessel, learning new technologies and adapting them for human use. What they discovered changed their understanding of what was possible in space combat. Commander Steve Johnson had been put in charge of the captured alien cruiser Retribution, which his crew had converted into a hybrid warship. The ship retained its alien hull and engines, but now carried human weapons and crew. "The alien quantum computers are incredible," Steve reported to Fleet Command. "They can process tactical data faster than anything we've built, but they're programmed to follow established patterns. We've been reprogramming them to think more like humans, to consider unusual options and creative solutions." This marriage of alien processing power with human creativity produced weapons and tactics that neither species could have developed alone. Human ships began using quantum calculation to predict enemy movements while still maintaining the unpredictability that made them so effective. Maria Santos led a squadron of these hybrid vessels in an attack on the alien fleet's rearguard. Her ships moved like nothing else in space, combining alien speed and power with human tactical flexibility. "Ghost Squadron engaging enemy cruisers," Maria transmitted. "We're using the new quantum prediction algorithms to anticipate their evasion patterns." The alien ships tried to escape using standard retreat protocols, but the hybrid human-alien computers predicted every maneuver. Maria's squadron destroyed 4 enemy vessels without taking a single hit in return. Professor. Kate Miller continued monitoring alien communications from her position on Luna Base. What she heard told the story of a military force that was experiencing complete psychological collapse. Their fleet commanders are arguing among themselves, she reported to Admiral Morrison. Some want to retreat immediately. Others want to make a final stand. Their communication discipline is breaking down. The alien fleet was discovering what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object, except the humans were both immovable in defense and unstoppable in attack. Captain Helen Brooks took the stealth ship USS Ghost deep into the retreating alien formation. Her mission was to gather intelligence on alien escape plans and to target their command vessels for capture. I'm reading massive energy buildup from the alien flagship, Helen transmitted. They're preparing to jump to hyperspace. But their navigation systems are damaged. They might not be able to calculate a safe jump. Admiral Morrison made a decision that would echo across the galaxy. Instead of destroying the alien command ship, he ordered it captured intact with all its senior officers and strategic databases. All units, priority target is the alien flagship, he announced. Disable its engines and hyperspace drive. We need those commanders alive for interrogation. The final battle for Gulfek's flagship lasted 3 hours. Human ships surrounded the massive vessel and systematically destroyed its weapons and engines while boarding parties fought their way through its corridors. Colonel Mike Torres led the assault on the alien bridge personally. When he and his Marines burst into the command center, they found War Commander Gulfek standing alone among his surrendered officers. I am War Commander Gulfek of the Korthai Fleet, the alien leader said through translation devices. I demand to be treated according to the laws of civilized warfare. Mike looked at the alien commander who had tried to destroy every human in the galaxy. You can demand whatever you want, he replied. But you're going to answer some questions about this Galactic Council of yours. The capture of Gulfek and his command staff gave humanity access to the most complete database of alien military technology and galactic politics that any young species had ever obtained. Dr. Amy Watson led the teams that analyzed the captured data. This is incredible, she told Admiral Morrison. We now have detailed information about every species in the galaxy, their technology levels, their military capabilities, and their political relationships. The aliens kept records of everything. More importantly, the database contained the locations of the Galactic Council's main bases and the deployment patterns of their fleets throughout the galaxy. Humanity now knew where their enemies lived and how they could be found. As the last alien ships fled the solar system, Earth's defenders took stock of their victory. They had not just survived an attempted genocide, they had turned the tables on their attackers and captured enough technology and intelligence to change the balance of power in the galaxy. Admiral Morrison addressed the human fleet as they regrouped in Earth orbit. 6 months ago, we were alone in the galaxy. Today, we know that there are dozens of species out there who have been oppressed by the same council that tried to destroy us. We have a choice to make. We can stay here and wait for them to come back, or we can take the fight to them. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would not wait to be attacked again. They would carry their message of freedom to every species in the galaxy. Backed by the most powerful fleet that Earth had ever assembled, the Council had expected to destroy another primitive species. Instead, they had awakened a force that would challenge their authority throughout the galaxy. The humans were coming, and they were bringing revolution with them. War Commander Gulfek, sitting in his prison cell on Luna Base, realized that his attack on Earth had changed galactic history forever. The humans had not just won a battle. They had become the spark that would ignite a galaxy-wide rebellion against Council rule. The galaxy would never be the same again. Morrison smiled as he watched a human cargo ship dock next to a Zephyrian science vessel. Tell them we'll be happy to talk. But make it clear that the days of ruling through fear are over. This galaxy belongs to everyone who lives in it, not just the strongest or the oldest. The war that had begun with the Council's attempt to destroy humanity had ended with the birth of a new galactic civilization. The species that had faced extinction had become the architects of freedom for countless worlds across the galaxy. On worlds that had lived under council authority for millennia, beings looked up at the stars and saw hope instead of oppression. The massive ship came alive with a deep humming sound that Ryan Brooks could feel in his bones. Lights flickered on throughout the corridors, and computer screens began showing symbols that looked almost human but not quite right. Everyone back. "To the shuttle now," Ryan ordered his team. But as they ran toward the airlock, metal doors began sliding shut, blocking their path. "Ryan, what is happening over there?" Commander Jake Sullivan called through the radio. "The ship is sealing us in, sir. All the doors are closing automatically." Jake watched from the Nightfall's bridge as the huge vessel's exterior lights came on. The ship looked even more impressive now, with blue and white lights running along its armor plating. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Dr. Kevin Walsh had arrived on the bridge when the emergency alert sounded. He was the fleet's expert on alien technology and ancient artifacts. Kevin studied the readings from the awakening ship with great interest. "Commander, this is not alien technology," Kevin said. "The design patterns, the energy signatures, even the way the lights are arranged. This is definitely human-made." "But we never built anything like this," Jake replied. "No, we did not, at least not that anyone knows about." Back on the mysterious ship, Ryan and his team found themselves trapped in a large room filled with computer terminals. The screens showed star maps and technical data that scrolled too fast to read dots. Suddenly, a voice spoke from speakers in the walls. The voice sounded calm and mechanical, like a computer trying to sound human. "Scanning life forms. Human genetic markers confirmed. Welcome aboard the UHS Shadowbane." Ryan looked around the room. Meant United Human Ship, but he had never heard of any ship called Shadowbane. "Who are you?" Ryan asked the voice. "I am Guardian, the artificial intelligence system of this vessel. I have been waiting for authorized personnel to arrive." "Waiting for how long?" 37 years, 4 months, and 16 days. Ryan reported this conversation to Commander Sullivan, who was becoming more confused by the minute. A human ship, with an AI system that had been waiting for nearly 40 years? It seemed impossible. "Guardian, why have you been waiting?" Jake asked through the radio. "My programming requires activation by personnel with proper genetic clearance. The boarding party leader carries the correct genetic markers." Jake looked at his crew. "Ryan, what is it talking about?" Ryan had no idea. He was just a security chief from a farming colony. Nothing special about his genetics as far as he knew. Dr. Walsh stepped forward. "Commander, I need to board that ship. This could be the most important discovery in human history. It might be dangerous, Kevin." "Everything important is dangerous, sir." Jake made the decision to take a larger team to the Shadowbane. He, Dr. Walsh, Engineer Martinez, and Navigation Officer Amy Carter joined Ryan's team on the massive vessel. When Jake stepped into the main computer room, Guardian's voice welcomed him personally. "Commander Sullivan, your genetic profile indicates command authorization. Do you wish to assume control of this vessel?" Jake looked around the room full of alien-looking human technology. "What exactly is this ship, Guardian?" "The UHS Shadowbane is a Dreadnought-class defensive platform. We were constructed during the Deep Strike Initiative to protect human civilization from existential threats." Dr. Walsh nearly jumped with excitement. "The Deep Strike Initiative? I have never heard of such a program." The program was classified. At the highest levels, records were sealed after the project's completion. Lisa Martinez was studying the technical displays on the walls. The power systems were beyond anything she had ever seen. "Guardian, what kind of weapons does this ship have?" "The Shadowbane carries plasma cannons capable of cracking planetary surfaces, missile systems with quantum warheads, and defensive shields that can withstand direct stellar bombardment." Everyone in the room went quiet. A ship with that kind of power could fight an entire fleet by itself. Amy Carter was looking at the star charts. Guardian, these maps show human colonies that do not exist. What are these locations? Those are the positions of deep strike assets and hidden colonies established during the expansion period. Many records were classified or destroyed. Jake realized they had found something much bigger than just one ship. Guardian, are there more ships like this one? Affirmative. 11 sister ships remain in standby mode throughout the galaxy. 11 more ships like this? The 12 ships of the Shadowbane class were designed to ensure human survival under any circumstances. Dr. Walsh was recording everything on his portable computer. This was the discovery of a lifetime. Guardian, why were these ships hidden? Why keep them secret? Political pressure forced the termination of the Deep Strike Initiative. The ships were placed in automated standby to await activation during a crisis. Lisa was still studying the power systems. Guardian, how do these engines work? The energy output should be impossible. The power cores use controlled quantum reactions. The technology was developed specifically for the Dreadnought-class vessels. Jake was beginning to understand the situation. Humans had secretly built 12 super-powerful warships and then hidden them away. But why? Guardian, what kind of crisis were you designed to handle? The ships were programmed to activate if human civilization faced destruction from external forces. Our sensors detect massive alien fleet movements toward human space. Amy checked her instruments. Commander, Guardian is right. I am picking up signals from multiple alien fleets heading toward Earth. Jake felt his blood run cold. While they had been exploring this ancient ship, alien forces were moving to attack human worlds. Guardian, can this ship help defend humanity? That is my primary function, Commander. However, I require authorization from a ranking officer to begin combat operations. Jake looked around at his team. They had stumbled onto humanity's greatest secret weapon just when they needed it most. The timing seemed too good to be coincidence. I authorize combat operations, Guardian. Authorization accepted. Beginning. Full system activation. Estimated time to combat readiness, 4 hours. The ship around them began to change. More lights came on, and they could hear the sound of massive systems powering up throughout the vessel. Commander, Guardian continued, I am also sending activation signals to my sister ships. The Deep Strike fleet will soon be ready for battle. Jake realized that everything was about to change. Humans were no longer the weak species hiding in the corner of the galaxy. They had ships that could fight back and fight hard. The question was, would it be enough? Commander Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the USS Nightfall, watching the stars through the large front window. His ship moved slowly through space on what should have been a normal patrol. The deep space mission was supposed to be quiet and boring. Just check a few empty star systems and return home. Nothing special ever happened out here in the far reaches of human space. Sir, we are getting a strange reading, said Officer Amy Carter from her station. She looked at her screens with confusion. There is something big out there. Jake walked over to Amy's station and looked at the display. A large object appeared on the scanner, floating in the middle of the Kepler Nebula. The nebula was a cloud of gas and dust that made it hard to see things clearly. But this object was huge, much bigger than any ship Jake had ever seen. What do you think it is? Jake asked. Amy pressed several buttons and the image became clearer. It looks like a ship, sir. But it is not like any design in our database. The energy readings are very strange, too. Jake called for his chief engineer, Lisa Martinez, to the bridge, please. A few minutes later, Lisa arrived. She was a small woman with dark hair who knew everything about ship engines and power systems. Lisa looked at the readings and her eyes grew wide. Commander, that thing is putting out more power than our entire fleet combined, Lisa said. But the energy pattern is wrong. It should not be possible. Jake made a decision. Set course for that ship. We need to take a closer look. The Nightfall moved toward the strange vessel. As they got closer, everyone on the bridge could see how massive it was. The ship was dark gray and covered with armor plates. It was at least 10 times longer than the Nightfall and twice as wide. Strange lights blinked along its surface. Any signs of life? Jake asked. Ryan Brooks, the security chief, checked his instruments. No life signs, sir. But there are active power systems all through the ship. It is like the ship is alive but empty. Jake had never seen anything like it. The ship looked human in design, but no human shipyard had ever built anything this big. The technology looked advanced, maybe 50 years ahead of anything humans currently had. Lisa, can you tell how old this ship is? Jake asked. Lisa ran more scans. The metal shows signs of age, sir. Maybe 30 or 40 years old? But that makes no sense. Humans did not have this technology 40 years ago. Jake studied the massive ship floating in space. It had no markings that he could see, no name or number painted on the hull. But something about its design looked familiar, like it belonged to the human fleet even though it clearly did not. Sir, I am picking up some kind of signal, Amy said. It is very weak, but it seems to be coming from that ship. What kind of signal? It looks like an identification code, sir. But it is encrypted with a code I have never seen before. Jake made another decision. Ryan, get your security team ready. We are going aboard that ship. Ryan nodded. Yes, sir. How many men should I take? Take 6 of your best. Full combat gear, but we are not looking for a fight. We just want to know what this thing is. While Ryan prepared his team, Jake contacted Earth Command. The message would take hours to reach Earth and hours more to get a reply. For now, they were on their own. The boarding shuttle launched from the Nightfall 30 minutes later. Ryan led his team of 6 security officers toward the massive ship. They found an airlock that looked human-made and managed to connect their shuttle. The airlock is responding to our signals, Ryan reported over the radio. Whatever this ship, it recognizes human technology? The airlock opened and Ryan's team entered the ship. The hallways were wide and tall, much bigger than needed for humans. Emergency lights provided dim illumination. The air was clean and breathable. This place feels empty, one of Ryan's men said, but all the systems are running. Ryan led his team deeper into the ship. They found no crew quarters, no mess hall, no living spaces at all. Instead, they found massive computer cores and weapon systems that looked incredibly advanced. Commander, you need to see this, Ryan called over the radio. We found what looks like a bridge, but there are no chairs or control stations. Just computer terminals. Jake listened as Ryan described what they found. A ship with no crew, no living spaces, but working computers and weapons. It made no sense. Sir, we found something else, Ryan continued. There is writing on the wall, near what looks like the main computer. It says Project Shadowbane. Jake had never heard of any Project Shadowbane. He knew about most secret military projects, at least the names. But this was completely unknown. Keep looking, Ryan. Be careful. Ryan's team explored more of the ship. They found engine rooms with technology that seemed impossible. Power cores that ran on principles they did not understand. Weapon systems that could probably destroy entire fleets. Commander, I think this ship has been waiting for something, Ryan reported. All the systems are in standby mode, like it is ready to wake up at any moment. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. A ship this powerful floating in space for decades, waiting for something. But waiting for what? Ryan, get your team back to the shuttle. We need to report this to command immediately. As Ryan's team prepared to leave, one of his men accidentally touched a control panel. Suddenly, lights began turning on throughout the ship. Computer systems started humming with power. Ryan, get out of there now, Jake shouted, but it was too late. The massive ship was waking up, and nobody knew what would happen next. On the council world of Nexus Prime, emergency alarms echoed through the massive pyramid that housed the Galactic Council. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vorthan Empire slithered quickly through the corridors on his 6 legs, his scaled skin showing patches of red that indicated extreme stress. The council chamber was already filled with representatives from 12 different species when Zethkar arrived. At the center of the circular room, a holographic display showed the energy signature that had been detected in human space. The readings made every alien in the room nervous. Council President Yelana, a tall blue-skinned Zanari, called the emergency session to order. Her forearms gestured toward the display while her large black eyes reflected the light from the hologram. Members of the council, our worst fears have been confirmed, Yelana announced. The humans have awakened one of their ancient war machines. Murmurs of concern filled the chamber. Several of the younger council members looked confused, but the older ones remembered the stories their ancestors had told them. Ambassador Kraz of the hegemony, a large bear-like creature with gray fur, stood up slowly. President Yelana, many of us do not understand the significance of this discovery. Perhaps you could explain why one human ship should concern the entire council. Yelana activated another hologram that showed historical records from 300 years ago. The images displayed a massive space battle between alien ships and what looked like the vessel now detected in human space. 3 centuries ago, our ancestors encountered the humans during their first expansion period, Yelana explained. At that time, humans possessed ships like the one that has awakened. We called them dreadnoughts. Zethkar hissed softly, his reptilian head nodding in agreement. My people still tell stories of those dark days. A single human dreadnought held off our entire sector fleet for 6 months. The war lasted only 2 years, Yelana continued, but the destruction was terrible. Human dreadnoughts could destroy our largest ships with single shots. They move faster than our fighters, and their shields could not be broken by conventional weapons. A young council member from the Aquatic Federation raised a tentacle. But we won that war, did we not? The historical records show that humanity was defeated. We did not win, Kraz said quietly. The humans simply stopped fighting. Their government recalled all the dreadnoughts and agreed to limit their expansion. We thought all those ships had been destroyed. Yelana changed the hologram to show current fleet positions. Our intelligence networks report that humans now know about this ship. If they learn how to build more dreadnoughts, the balance of power in the galaxy will change forever. The council chamber fell silent as everyone considered this possibility. For 300 years, the alien species had controlled galactic politics. Humans were seen as a minor species, useful for trade but not powerful enough to threaten anyone. What do you propose we do? Asked the representative from the Crystal Worlds. Before Yelana could answer, an aide hurried into the chamber and whispered something in her ear. The president's skin changed from blue to a pale green color that indicated shock. Members of the council, I have just received additional intelligence. Our spy network reports that the human ship has fully activated. Moreover, it appears to be communicating with other vessels. Other vessels? Zethkar's voice showed fear. How many others? We do not know yet, but energy signatures matching. The dreadnought pattern have been detected in 11 different star systems. Panic spread through the council chamber. Representatives began speaking loudly in their native languages, and several species' natural defense mechanisms activated. The chamber filled with the sounds of clicking, hissing, and growling. Yelana called for order. Members of the council, we must act quickly. I propose we send an immediate ultimatum to the human government. They must surrender these ships or face the combined might of the council fleet. Will they surrender? Asked Kraz. They have to, Zethkar replied. Humans are reasonable beings. They will not risk war against all of us for a few old ships. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Victoria Hayes was reading the most classified report she had ever seen. Commander Sullivan's discovery of the Shadowbane had sent shockwaves through Human Defense Command. Files that had been sealed for decades were suddenly being opened and studied. Victoria sat in her office, deep underground beneath the Defense Command building. The walls were lined with screens showing the positions of human ships throughout known space. For the first time in her career, she felt truly afraid. Her aide, Colonel Frank Morris, entered the office carrying a tablet computer. Admiral, we just received a message from the Galactic Council. It is marked as an ultimatum. Victoria took the tablet and read the message. The Council demanded that humans immediately surrender all Dreadnought-class vessels and submit to Council oversight of human military development. They gave humanity 72 hours to comply. Frank, how many of our ships are currently in deep space? About 40% of the fleet, Admiral. Most of them are on patrol or escort duty. Victoria stood up and walked to the large map display on her wall. Human space looked very small compared to the territories controlled by the Council species. If war came, humans would be badly outnumbered. Admiral, there is something else, Frank said quietly. We have been monitoring alien fleet movements for the past week. Large battle groups from 6 different species are moving toward our borders. They were planning to attack us even before they knew about the Shadowbane, Victoria realized. This ultimatum is just an excuse. Victoria activated her secure communication system and sent a priority message to all human commanders. The message was simple: prepare for war, back on the Council world. Yelena was meeting privately with the military leaders of the major species. War Marshal Thexmori of the Combined Fleet was a massive insectoid creature whose thoughts were focused entirely on battle. President Yelena, my fleets are already in position. Thexmori clicked through his translator device. We have over 3,000 ships ready to attack human worlds. Are you certain we can win quickly? Yelena asked. If the humans have 12 dreadnoughts. Our technology has advanced considerably in 300 years, the War Marshal replied. Even if their old ships are powerful, they cannot stand against our modern fleet. Zethkar was not so confident. War Marshal, you did not live through the last conflict with human dreadnoughts. These ships are not like anything else in the galaxy. Then we will destroy them before they can become a threat, Thexmori said with certainty. The attack begins in 60 hours. As the Council made their plans for war, they did not know that their communications were being monitored. Hidden human. Listening posts throughout the galaxy were recording every message and transmitting the intelligence. Back to Earth. Admiral Hayes read the intercepted communications with growing concern. The Council was not just afraid of the dreadnoughts, they were terrified. The level of fear usually meant that whatever scared them was very dangerous indeed. She opened another classified file, this one containing technical specifications for the Shadowbane-class vessels. As she read the capabilities of these ancient human ships, Victoria began to understand why the aliens were so afraid, according to the records. Each dreadnought was designed to fight an entire fleet by itself. Their weapons could destroy planets, and their defenses could withstand almost any attack. Victoria made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. Instead of surrendering the ships to avoid war, she would use them to win it. The age of human weakness was about to end. Dr. Paul Johnson hurried through the underground archives beneath the Human Defense Command building. He had been given emergency clearance to access files that most people did not even know existed. The historian in him was excited, but the human in him was terrified by what he might find. Paul was a thin man with gray hair who had spent his entire life studying human military history. He thought he knew everything about humanity's expansion into space, but the discovery of the Shadowbane had proven him wrong. There were entire chapters of human history that had been hidden from the public and even from most government officials. The archive vault required 3 different security checks before Paul could enter. Inside, robotic systems retrieved file boxes that had not been opened in decades. Dust covered everything, and the air smelled old and forgotten. Computer, show me all files related to Project Shadowbane and the Deep Strike Initiative. Paul commanded. The computer responded with mechanical efficiency. Warning: these files contain information classified at the highest levels. Access is restricted to personnel with special presidential authorization. Authorization confirmed. Admiral Hayes has granted full access. Screens around the room lit up with documents, photographs, and technical diagrams. Paul began reading and immediately understood why these files had been sealed. The story they told was incredible and frightening. The Deep Strike Initiative had been created 45 years ago during a period of rapid human expansion. At that time, humans were pushing into new star systems and establishing colonies faster than ever before. But they were also making contact with alien species that were not always friendly. Paul found records of first contact situations that had gone badly wrong. Entire human colonies had been destroyed by alien raiders who saw humans as easy targets. The human fleet of that time was small and designed for exploration, not warfare. A group of military leaders and scientists had secretly proposed the Deep Strike Initiative as a solution. If humans could not match alien numbers, they would build ships so powerful that numbers would not matter. Each deep strike vessel would be capable of fighting an entire alien fleet alone. The project had been approved by President Angela Foster in a classified executive order. 12 shipyards and remote star systems began construction immediately. The best human engineers worked on technologies that pushed the limits of known science. Paul found technical specifications that made his eyes grow wide. The Dreadnought-class ships used quantum power cores that generated more energy than some stars. Their weapons could crack planets, and their shields could deflect attacks that would destroy normal ships. But the most impressive feature was their artificial intelligence systems. Each ship carried an AI that could learn, adapt, and make tactical decisions faster than any human commander. The A's were programmed with one simple directive: protect humanity at any cost. Construction of the 12 ships took 8 years. During that time, the project remained completely secret. Even most government officials did not know it existed. The ships were built in hidden facilities and tested in empty star systems far from prying eyes. Paul found records of the ship's first combat mission. 3 dreadnoughts had responded to an attack on the human colony of New Geneva. The alien raiders had brought 40 warships to destroy the settlement. The 3 human ships arrived and destroyed the entire alien fleet in less than 2 hours. Word of the battle spread quickly through alien communication networks. Suddenly, every species in the galaxy knew that humans possessed weapons of incredible power. The balance of galactic politics shifted overnight. For the next 5 years, the dreadnoughts served as humanity's ultimate deterrent. No alien species dared to attack human colonies when they knew the consequences. Human expansion continued at an unprecedented rate, and new colonies were established throughout the galaxy, but then something went wrong. Paul found records of heated debates in the human government about the use of the dreadnoughts. Some officials believed the ships made humans too aggressive and would eventually lead to a galactic war. The crisis came when the Galactic Council demanded that humans limit their expansion and submit to council oversight. Most human leaders wanted to refuse, but a significant minority argued for compromise. The debate tore the human government apart. President Foster had been forced to make a terrible choice. She could use the dreadnoughts to fight the entire galaxy, or she could negotiate a peace that would limit human growth but avoid a devastating war. Paul found the classified recording of President Foster's final decision. Her voice was tired and sad as she spoke to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The dreadnoughts were built to protect humanity, not to conquer the galaxy, she had said. If we use them to fight the entire council, we become the very thing we built them to defend against. The President had ordered the Deep Strike Initiative terminated. All 12 ships were to be placed in automated standby mode and hidden throughout the galaxy. Their existence was classified and all records were sealed, but Paul discovered that President Foster had included a secret provision in her shutdown order. The ships would remain in standby until humanity faced an existential threat. If human civilization was in danger of destruction, the dreadnoughts would automatically reactivate. Paul realized that the current crisis was exactly what President Foster had predicted: the Council's ultimatum and the movement of alien fleets toward human space had triggered the automatic reactivation of the Deep Strike Fleet. As Paul continued reading, he found another disturbing piece of information. Chief Communications Officer Nina Scott had been monitoring alien communications for weeks, and the patterns she found were troubling. The Council species had been deliberately working to limit human expansion for decades. They had used economic pressure, political manipulation, and even covert military action to keep humanity weak and contained. Paul found evidence that the Council had been planning a major offensive against human space for months, possibly years. The discovery of the Shadowbane had not caused their aggression, it had simply forced them to move faster than planned. Nina Scott had intercepted communications between Council species discussing the human problem. The aliens saw humanity as a potential threat that needed to be eliminated before it became too powerful. They had been waiting for the right moment to strike. Paul realized that the current situation was not about the dreadnoughts at all. The Council had already decided to destroy human civilization. The ultimatum was just a convenient excuse to justify their attack. He compiled his findings into a report for Admiral Hayes. The message was clear: humanity was not facing a crisis caused by the discovery of their secret weapons. They were facing a war that had been planned by their enemies for years. The dreadnoughts had not created this conflict. They had simply given humanity a chance to survive it. Paul sent his report to Admiral Hayes and then sat back in his chair. As a historian, he understood that he was witnessing one of the most important moments in human history. The decisions made in the next few days would determine whether humanity survived as a free species or was destroyed by enemies who had never intended to let them live in peace. The Deep Strike Initiative had been created to prevent exactly this situation. Now, 40 years later, President Foster's final gambit was about to be tested. The question was whether 12 hidden ships would be enough to save humanity from a galaxy that wanted them dead. War Marshal Vex Mori stood in the command center of his flagship, the Void Crusher, watching as thousands of alien warships moved into position for the attack on human space. The massive insectoid felt confident about the coming battle. His combined fleet represented the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Representatives from 12 different species had contributed ships to the assault force. The Vorthan Empire had sent their deadly Serpent-class destroyers. The Zenari Federation contributed their powerful energy weapons platforms. Even the normally peaceful Aquatic Federation had provided heavy cruisers for the attack. War Marshal, all fleets report ready for the assault, clicked his aide, a smaller insectoid whose name Vex Mori had never bothered to learn. Total vessel count 3,147 ships. Vex Mori's compound eyes reflected the tactical display showing the positions of his forces. The fleet was arranged in 12 separate battle groups, each one larger than the entire human navy. Even if the humans had awakened some of their ancient ships, they could not possibly stand against such overwhelming numbers. "Begin the attack," Vex Mori commanded. "All fleets will advance simultaneously. Destroy every human military installation and occupy their major colonies." Light years away, Admiral Victoria Hayes watched the alien advance from her command center. On Earth, long-range sensors showed the massive Council fleet moving across the border into human space. The sight was both terrifying and impressive. So many ships that they blocked out entire star fields. "Admiral, the Council fleet is dividing into multiple attack groups," reported Colonel Morris. "They are targeting our major colonies simultaneously." Victoria studied the tactical display. The aliens were not taking any chances. Instead of a single concentrated attack, they were striking at multiple targets to prevent human forces from concentrating their defenses. "What is the status of our conventional fleet?" "All available ships are moving to defensive positions, Admiral. But we only have 400 vessels total, and most of them are not equipped for major fleet combat." Victoria knew that humanity's regular navy could not hope to stop the Council attack. Everything depended on the 12 dreadnoughts and whether they could live up to their legendary reputation. "Colonel, contact all dreadnought commanders. It is time to see what these ships can really do." The first battle began in the Proxima system, where Council forces attacked the human colony of New Terra. A Vorthan battle group of 250 ships emerged from hyperspace and immediately began targeting the planet's orbital defenses. The human garrison consisted of only 12 patrol vessels and a handful of defense platforms. Against normal odds, the battle would have been over in minutes, but vengeance was waiting. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had been given command of the dreadnought after its discovery 3 days earlier. She was still learning the ship's capabilities when the alien attack began. "Captain, the AI is requesting permission to engage," reported her tactical officer. "The enemy fleet is within optimal weapons range." Lisa looked at the tactical display showing 250 alien ships approaching the colony. "Permission granted. Let us see what this ship can do." The Vengeance's AI, calling itself Blade, immediately took control of the ship's weapon systems. What happened next would be talked about for generations. The Dreadnought fired its main plasma cannons, sending beams of coherent energy across space at near light speed. Each shot struck with the force of a small nuclear weapon, but the cannons fired so rapidly that they created a continuous stream of destruction. The lead Vorthan destroyers simply vanished as the plasma beam struck them. Their shields offered no protection against weapons that operated on principles they did not understand. Within 30 seconds, 20 alien ships had been completely destroyed. The Vorthan commander tried to adapt his tactics, ordering his ships to spread out and attack from multiple directions. But the Vengeance proved to be faster and more maneuverable than anything its size should have been. The Dreadnought's quantum torpedoes began firing, each missile capable of seeking its own target and adapting its approach based on enemy defensive measures. The torpedoes moved faster than conventional weapons and carried warheads that could crack the hulls of the largest alien vessels. In less than 10 minutes, the Vengeance had destroyed over half the attacking fleet. The surviving Vorthan ships attempted to retreat, but the Dreadnought's weapons had a range measured in light minutes. Even ships trying to escape into hyperspace were caught and destroyed. Captain Rodriguez watched in amazement as her single ship eliminated an entire alien battle group. "Blade, what are our damage reports?" "No damage sustained, Captain. Enemy weapons were unable to penetrate our defensive shields." Similar battles were taking place throughout human space. Each dreadnought was proving capable of engaging massive enemy forces single-handedly. The UHS Retribution destroyed a Zenari Federation fleet of 300 ships while defending the industrial world of Titan Prime. The UHS Shadowbane, with Commander Sullivan still aboard, intercepted a mixed alien force of 400 vessels approaching Earth itself. Guardian's tactical systems proved so advanced that the ship was able to engage multiple targets simultaneously while maintaining perfect defensive positioning. War. Marshal Dex Mori watched his tactical display with growing horror as Battle Group, after Battle Group, was wiped out by individual human ships. His 3,000-ship fleet was being systematically destroyed by only 12 enemy vessels. How is this possible? He clicked frantically to his staff. Our intelligence reports indicated that humans possessed primitive technology. War Marshal, these ships are not using any technology in our databases, his tactical officer reported. Their weapons operate on unknown principles, and their defensive capabilities exceed our most optimistic projections. Lexmori realized that the Council had made a terrible mistake. They had planned this attack based on their knowledge of human capabilities from 300 years ago. But these ships were far more advanced than anything their ancestors had faced. "Send a message to all surviving units," Lexmori ordered. "Full retreat." All ships returned to Council space immediately. But it was too late for most of his fleet. The dreadnoughts were systematically hunting down fleeing enemy vessels, their advanced sensors capable of tracking ships even through hyperspace jumps. Captain Eric Stone aboard the UHS Nemesis was pursuing a group of fleeing alien ships when he received new orders from Admiral Hayes. "Captain Stone, do not pursue enemy forces beyond the border of human space. Allow them to retreat and carry word of what they have seen." Eric understood the strategy. Admiral Hayes wanted some alien ships to escape so they could report back to the Council about humanity's true military capabilities. The battle for human space was over in less than 6 hours. Of the Council's 3,000-ship invasion fleet, fewer than 200 vessels survived to return home. The 12 human dreadnoughts had not lost a single ship, and most had suffered no damage at all. Admiral Hayes stood in her command center, looking at the tactical display that showed the positions of her victorious fleet. Humanity had just won the most decisive military victory in galactic history. Admiral, we are receiving communications from several council species, reported Colonel Morris. They are requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations. Victoria smiled for the first time in days. The Council's gambit had failed completely. Instead of destroying humanity before it could become a threat, they had forced humans to reveal the full extent of their hidden military power. Colonel, respond to all Council communications with the same message. Humanity accepts surrender negotiations, but only on our terms. The balance of power in the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer the weak species hiding in the corner of known space. They had proven themselves to be one of the most militarily capable civilizations in the galaxy. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human dominance had begun. Captain Tony Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Explorer, staring at readings that should have been impossible. His science vessel had been investigating strange energy signatures in the Omega Centauri system when his sensors detected something massive hiding behind the system's largest gas giant. "Captain, you need to see this," said Science Officer Dana White, her voice filled with excitement and concern. "The object is approximately 12 kilometers long and generating power levels that match our database files for the Shadowbane." Tony moved to Dana's station and studied the readings. After Commander Sullivan's discovery, all human ships had been given technical specifications for the Dreadnought-class vessels. The energy signature was unmistakable. "Is it responding to our signals?" Tony asked. "Not yet, sir. But there is definitely activity inside the ship. It seems to be in some kind of standby mode." Tony activated his communication system and contacted Admiral Hayes directly. Within minutes, he received new orders: approach the vessel and attempt to establish contact. The Explorer moved slowly toward the hidden ship. As they got closer, Tony could see the massive form of another dreadnought floating silently in space. This one was slightly different from the Shadowbane, with additional weapon emplacements and a more angular design. Suddenly, lights began flickering on throughout the alien vessel. A calm artificial voice spoke through the Explorer's communication. "System, this is UHS Retribution, Dreadnought Class Designation Sierra 4. Identifying approaching vessel as human military. Please state your authorization codes." Tony looked at his crew with amazement. Another dreadnought had awakened automatically when a human ship approached. "Retribution, this is Captain Tony Miller of the USS Explorer. We are operating under emergency authorization from Admiral Hayes of Human Defense Command." "Authorization confirmed." "Captain Miller, I am receiving quantum entanglement signals from my sister ship Shadowbane. The Deep Strike Fleet is being reactivated." Tony felt his heart beating faster. "How many ships are in the Deep Strike Fleet?" 12 vessels total, Captain. All ships are responding to activation signals. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other human ships were making similar discoveries. Each dreadnought had been hidden in a different star system, placed in locations where they could respond quickly to threats against human space intelligence. Officer Kate Williams was aboard the USS Vigilant when they discovered the third dreadnought, designated UHS Vengeance, hidden in an asteroid field near the Vega system. The ship had been disguised as a large asteroid for decades, its hull covered with rock and ice to hide its true nature. Captain Eric Stone found the fourth ship, Nemesis, floating in the dark space between star systems. This dreadnought had been drifting for 40 years. Its systems powered down to minimal levels to avoid detection by long-range sensors. Each discovery followed the same pattern. The human ships would detect strange energy readings, investigate, and find a massive dreadnought waiting in standby mode. When approached by human vessels, the ancient ships would automatically activate and request authorization codes. Admiral Hayes was coordinating the discoveries from her command center on Earth. A large display screen showed the positions of all known dreadnoughts as they came online. The sight was both impressive and terrifying. "Admiral, we have confirmed 8 active dreadnoughts so far," reported Colonel Morris. "The other 4 are responding to activation signals but have not yet been contacted by our ships." Victoria studied the tactical display. The dreadnoughts were positioned throughout human space in a defensive pattern that would allow them to protect major colonies and industrial centers. Whoever had planned their placement 40 years ago had thought carefully about strategic positioning. Colonel, how long until all 12 ships are fully operational? Guardian estimates 6 hours for complete fleet activation, Admiral. Each ship is running full diagnostic checks and updating their tactical databases. Victoria opened a secure channel to the Shadowbane, where Commander Sullivan was still working with Dr. Walsh to understand the ship's capabilities. Commander, what is Guardian's assessment of our tactical situation? Jake's voice came through. Clearly, Admiral, Guardian has been monitoring Council fleet movements. The AI estimates that we are facing approximately 3,000 enemy vessels from 12 different species. And Guardian believes 12 ships can handle those odds? Yes, ma'am. Guardian states that each dreadnought was designed to engage fleet-sized forces independently. The AI seems very confident about our chances. Victoria hoped the AI was right. Human conventional forces numbered only about 400 ships, and most of those were not designed for major fleet combat. If the dreadnoughts could not live up to their reputation, humanity would be facing complete destruction. Dr. Walsh had been studying the Shadowbane's technical systems for hours. What he found amazed him. The ship's weapons used principles of physics that human science was only beginning to understand. The power cores operated on controlled quantum reactions that generated energy outputs comparable to small stars, but the most impressive feature was the ship's adaptive, artificial intelligence. Guardian was not just a computer program, it was a thinking, learning entity capable of making strategic decisions and adapting to new situations in real time. Commander Sullivan, Guardian is showing me battle simulations from the ship's memory. Banks? Dr. Walsh reported. These vessels have capabilities far beyond anything I thought possible. What kind of capabilities, Doctor? Each ship can operate independently for years without resupply. Their weapons can destroy targets at ranges measured in light minutes. Their defensive shields can absorb energy equivalent to stellar flares. Jake was beginning to understand why the Alien Council was so afraid. Ships with these capabilities could indeed change the balance of power in the galaxy. Captain Miller was having similar conversations aboard the Retribution. The ship's AI, calling itself Sword, was providing technical briefings that made Tony's head spin. Captain Miller, this vessel carries 200 quantum torpedoes, each capable of destroying a planet, Sword explained calmly. Our main plasma cannons can crack continental plates at maximum power. What about defensive capabilities? Our shields can deflect direct hits from stellar-class weapons. The armor plating is composed of materials that do not exist in current human technology. Tony realized he was standing inside humanity's ultimate weapon of war. No wonder these ships had been hidden away. In the wrong hands, they could be used to conquer the entire galaxy. As more dreadnoughts came online, their AIs began communicating with each other through quantum entanglement networks. The 12 ships formed a linked intelligence system that could coordinate their actions across vast distances. Admiral Hayes received a communication from Guardian on behalf of the entire Deep Strike fleet. Admiral Hayes, all 12 Dreadnought-class vessels are now active and operational. We await your orders. Victoria looked at the tactical display showing Council fleets moving toward human space. In less than 48 hours, the largest space battle in galactic history would begin. Guardian, are your ships ready for combat? Admiral, we have been ready for 40 years. The Deep Strike Fleet stands ready to fulfill its primary mission, the protection of human civilization. Victoria took a deep breath and gave the order that would change everything. All Dreadnought commanders, this is Admiral Hayes. You are authorized to engage hostile forces entering human space. Protect our worlds at all costs. Across the galaxy, 12 ancient warships began moving toward the coming battle. Humanity's hidden guardians were finally going to war.